There we go. Hey, everybody. It's your friend Adam. I'm here with Xofrats. She's a regular in the chat of PSA Sitch and Friended and on my channel as well. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm as you said, a fan. I have been there for about a year, I think. And I really want to get into debating, but this is my first time, so I'm kind of nervous.
Well, so it's probably better that we're just recording this. So
Yeah.
it's not any pressure at all. It's just you and me here. I don't even have to upload this if it comes out. If it's a nightmare, if you're embarrassed of your performance, then we can just leave it.
Well, I don't have any hard evidence. But also, I think I need to say that I know we're going to discuss poly, and I just want to say I'm not poly. I'm just curious about it.
Oh, I just dropped my phone. Polyamory. So we're going to talk about polyamory. You had reached out to me and asked me about polyamory. And what are your questions about polyamory? Let's start there.
Well, so far I've heard a lot of people that say that polyamory can't work and it just creates a lot of incest cells. And I just don't get where that's coming from. It's just like, how do we get from just because people are dating more people? How does that create, lonely people?
The argument against polyamory and against, I guess, polygamy is that you're locking low status males out of the mating market. Best case scenario, you would have everybody mating up with someone in their own league, I guess you'd say. Everybody has sort of a marketplace value, which I know it's totally sounds incendiary to think of people this way. But, people tend to date in their own attractiveness league. So,
Sure.
So if you have a system where males who are just, let's call them pigs, and will date 20 girls at once, indiscriminately. If you have a system where that can take place, then the high status males, the better looking males, the more fit males, the more wealthy males will dominate all of the females. So you have one guy dating 20 girls, where those girls could separate off and make 20 men, make good relationships, good wives for 20 people, all being dominated by one high status male. So in the past, go ahead.
It's just because it's always one man gets all the women. Why can't it be one woman that gets all the men?
I like your attitude. I do. I like your style. I like your style. So I'll get to that in a second. Why? Let's hang on to that question. Why can't it be one woman and all the men? I guess it can. So if you have a system where one man is monopolized, and this actually has been proven through genetics. Basically, they find out that every woman has our lineage is by mostly women and not many men. One man becomes in our past, most men did not reproduce.
That's true.
So few men produced the majority of the babies. And this just breeds an environment that has more conflict as well. They talk about in nations where they do actually have polygamy, they're much more violent societies because the men are literally fighting for their own reproductive future. And women have a civilizing effect on men. So men that don't have a mate will be they don't have a lot to live for. They tend to pool together and create conflict within the society, criminal conflict, all kinds of things. So that's a problem. But why don't the women monopolize all of the men? Because the men are against that. And that's kind of the the thing against polyamory. You've heard the term cuck, I'm certain. You know what a cuck is?
Well, it's a man that lets his woman sleep around.
Yeah. So, but it comes from the word comes from the bird, the cuckold bird, who's a bird that actually lays an egg in the nest of another bird and gets the other bird to raise its offspring. like they basically plant their egg in another bird's nest. And there's, I think, like different types of cuckoos. I think it's a cuckoo bird, and their eggs are literally disguised like the other birds, but the offspring will actually throw the bird's original offspring out of the nest. So they're only raising this bird that is genetically not their own. It's a total stealing of the parental resources of another bird. And that's what a cuck is to males. So if you are a female and you have your harem of 20 males, go for it, Xofrats. I like this conversation. When you eventually end up pregnant, those 20 guys are not going to know who the baby is, who the kid belongs to. So they're going to be contributing they're going to be contributing parental resources to some other guy's lineage. And as we evolved, this is where jealousy comes from in men. And jealousy, they've actually studied this. Jealousy is much worse in men than it is in women, because women always know that the offspring is theirs, their own genetic offspring. Men never know. There's this thing called paternity uncertainty. So when you have your harem of 20 guys, and then you're finally pregnant and the baby comes, all these 20 guys are going to be looking at that baby going, whose kid is this? Right?
So it's by nature that your guys doesn't really want to raise another guy's kid.
Yeah, that's why cuck is such a brutal insult for people.
So even if it's your friend's kid, you don't want to raise him.
Well, I mean, we've subverted this culturally because people do adopt. Like, that's a thing. So, I mean, this is kind of, you look at the various aspects of the gender war, and really a lot of people are pushing to suppress these aspects in men. And I mean, there are certain cultures too where they have a completely different cultural outlook, and the women do sleep around. Some of them have this myth that babies are the accumulation of semen. So therefore, if you want to have a kid that's a good hunter, and you want to have a kid that's smart and witty and funny, and you want to have a kid that's tall, you like sleep with all the guys with those different attributes. And then the semen coalesces and becomes the offspring. And that offspring is actually of all of these men. And those cultures that have that cultural adaptation, you're really getting like 3 fathers for one, which is an interesting thing. I mean, it does happen, but I don't know. I mean, it'd be interesting to study. I don't know how we know today. And it's funny too, because the kid, like when the kid is first born, it doesn't necessarily look like you. But as it gets older, you definitely know like who the father is. You're like, that dude is the father. Like, this has happened. You can go to YouTube and look up paternity fraud and find these stories of dads that discovered their kid wasn't theirs because the kid starts looking like some other dude in town. Yeah. And it causes a lot of conflict because all of a sudden you're like, wow, I don't think my wife is being honest.
Exactly. It's because there has been cheating involved. But if you know that the kid was your best friend because or your partner because you're also dating the guy, I can't see why that should be a problem.
Well, it really is about the jealousy, because jealousy is the problem. And like, this came up, I think, on our podcast with PSA Sitch and me, because Jeffrey I can't remember his last name now. He's a evolutionary biologist. He's polyamorous, and Sitch and I kept thinking, ooh, because obviously Sitch and I get jealous. We have a normal, healthy, functioning jealousy system, and that normal, healthy, functioning jealousy system is specifically to avoid this. Like people, males that did not have this normally functioning jealousy system were bred out of the gene pool because they didn't care whether or not they reproduced, and that jealousy system wasn't passed down through their offspring because they didn't reproduce, or that non-jealousy system, right? Yeah. So the males that are more jealous, who are going to engage in more mate guarding behavior, are going to definitely pass that jealousy system down to their offspring because they're the ones mate guarding and saying, screw this.
Go away from my lady.
Yeah, exactly. They're marshaling their reproductive resources. So this is why the 20 guys and one woman doesn't really reach critical mass culturally.
Okay, so how about 2 guys and 2 girls?
2 guys and 2 girls, yes. But see, really when the family structure forms is when everything takes place. So say you have a swinger couple, a 4-way marriage, and the one guy gets lucky with both women. So you're raising 2 kids that belong to one guy, and the other male is locked out of the mating market. Sooner or later, that guy's gonna be looking at his kids and going, "Wow, I really got screwed here." I mean, I
see your point.
Yeah. So how many? Not only that, I mean, let's say this 4-way family has 5 kids, and they all belong to somehow the one guy ends up not getting lucky once. I mean, he really is becoming the 4th wheel, right?
Well, it's not like the other 3 doesn't love him anymore.
This is so funny because you can go. One of the videos that I watched, I got super obsessed with this for a while because I found it fascinating. One of the videos that I watched was this guy he had this really weird relationship with his daughter, and his daughter kept feeling like, "You're not my real dad." So it kind of, the intuitions that they had kind of destroyed their relationship.
Yeah.
And sure enough, she found out that he wasn't her real dad, and mom had been sleeping around, and she just wanted to find out who her real dad was. So, I mean, culturally, what we're doing is we've inherited these systems that have kind of encountered these problems in the past and worked in little fixes. And like we're having this conversation now, you haven't really even thought through these potential problems. Yeah. The only reason I thought them through is because I became obsessed with this topic. I was like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah, I let you do the job, and then you tell me.
But I don't see a lot. I mean, this is an interesting debate, but there is biological factors that are at play that I don't necessarily know that you can overcome. Like, I think people lie to themselves all the time. They deceive themselves. They say, I'll be just fine with this. And then you're like 30 years old and you've got, three kids from some other dude, and you're more and more you're ending up sleeping on the couch.
Oh, that's harsh.
Don't you think? I mean, listen, if you're in this 4-way relationship that you're theorizing about, and and none of the kids are yours, like, having kids with somebody has to. I don't have kids myself, so I don't know. Do you have kids?
No.
Yeah. So that
I hear that kids brainwash you.
Yeah, definitely. But they form. I mean, people do step parents all the time now. There's some
exactly. I have an older brother, and he has one kid with one person and 2 kids with another person, and they still make it work somehow.
Yeah. It's not, my intuition tells me it's not going to be as strong. And actually there's data on this too, that in the book, the Murder Next Door, David M. Buss compiles data from, I guess it's like child battery or assault, and most of the time it is from step parents. Step parents are more likely to be violent with children that are not their biological offspring, and that bears out through the data. So, I mean, it can work, and I think some of the step parent situations, I think, that are more stable are when both partners have reproduced already, so they both have fulfilled that biological imperative. So they have a child in the world, and they can kind of imprint on this other child. And this, I feel, I was raised by my stepdad, and I feel that this, I mean, a lot of this is coming from my own personal experience. I feel as though he didn't have a real relationship with his biological kids. Like, he tried like crazy, but his ex-wife had kind of soured them on him. So he kind of imprinted on me as his own biological son. But I don't know that would have happened.
It can happen.
I can, but it was a situation. I don't know that it could happen, and I guess it does because people actually adopt. So they imprint on the adopted child as their own biological son. It can happen. I'm like, culture is malleable, but but the poly situation with the woman with 20 guys, I think, is the least stable situation.
Definitely don't have 20 people in a relationship. That's just crazy.
So, but there's one floating around on the internet that's getting everyone triggered. It's 5 guys and 1 girl.
Yeah, even there, it's a bit too many people.
Well,
I'm still thinking about all the good things that can come from a poly relationship.
Okay.
Because I don't know how it is in America, but here in Denmark, you can't be 2 people about buying a house. It's too expensive. Mm-hmm. So it takes 2 income to afford a house. And it's still, if you want to have kids, it's nice to have a third person in the house taking care of everything. And then have 2 people working. And that's only in poly. Unless I move a friend in, but that's just crazy.
Well, you're going to be, so basically then I'm going to be nanny for some other dude's kid. I don't like this scenario, Xofrats. Like, I didn't move in to be the nanny for some other dude's kid.
But still, how else would you get a house?
All my friends are calling me a cuck, Xofrats. I don't like this. I don't like this scenario. I want to be the alpha.
But we get a house.
Yeah, that I think that's definitely an economic issue you got going over there. I thought Denmark was the utopia, the European utopia that they're in America. They're always talking about, oh, we have to be more like Denmark, where you have to have like 4 people in a relationship in order to buy a house. I don't know if I want to be like Denmark.
So you guys can buy a house just willy-nilly?
No, definitely. Well, it depends upon where you live, but in America, yes, it's you need 2 incomes to be able to afford anything, and having kids is expensive as well. Yeah, no, we have economic problems going on now. I mean, Sitch and I are constantly talking about this, the economic difficulties. I mean, that's why this is where we have sympathy with the left. But they're just not facing these problems. They want to say, oh, it doesn't matter that you can't buy a house. We're going to call you by your preferred pronouns, and that's going to make everything okay.
Yes. You don't need a roof over your head. You just need to be called sir.
Yeah, you don't need to be a homeowner. You don't need to be an invested member of society or anything. Just whatever pronouns you want, put them in your Twitter profile, and that'll make everything okay.
So how do monogamy in the future solve this, that it's harder and harder to get a job because everything gets run by robots? Mm-hmm. So it's harder to get money, and it's harder to get houses, and kids are expensive. So how would you do that in the future?
UBI. I mean, that's what
That's
what I'm saying. Exactly. Yang gang.
Yes. See, I thought that was a Scandinavian thing. You're stealing that from us.
The Yang gang?
the UBI.
Really? Well, everyone always says that they tried it in some Scandinavian country. I think it was Finland.
Yeah.
And that it failed. And I looked at the report, and they didn't try it. They gave money to unemployed people.
Yeah, they didn't do it right.
Yeah. So the whole idea behind UBI is that you give money to everyone, because there's only 20% of the population that are actually producers, which, I mean, sorry to the people on the right, but that's life. Life is about finding that 20% of people that are going to give you utopia. And so if you're only giving the UBI to unemployed people, I guarantee you're giving money to that 80%. So of course you're not going to see any return on your investment. If you give it to 100%, you are definitely capturing the 20% that are productive, and you're gambling that 20% that are productive are going to be so productive that they're going to pay for the entire 100% of the population. And I think we should start calling them the innovators of tomorrow, because anybody who knows anything about business knows it takes money to make money. So if you're locking people out of the market, say you have somebody who's very intelligent but has a super low tolerance for risk. So they're going to be conservative in their job in the job market and job discovery and family creation, all that stuff. And if they only had a little help that because they're risk averse, they might be an innovator.
Yeah.
So the idea of UBI is you're taking that risk off of people and allowing them to innovate, develop, start businesses, be creative, do all the kinds of things that could be beneficial in the future. And even if it's not, like, they're not the next Microsoft, maybe they're the next Kanye West. Who knows? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Also, you make it possible for people to not work, 38 hours a week.
That too.
If you have UBI, a lot of more people can just work 20 hours per week. And studies have shown that just getting up and go to work gives a lot of enjoyment for people.
You're also paying mothers to be mothers. Yeah, which is good. A lot of the people on the right worry. Well, our welfare programs have been a disaster because they've incentivized single motherhood. The way to structure UBI correctly, you should try to avoid that, and they want to make it enough that two people can live off of, but not one person can live off of by themselves, to avoid the single motherhood trap, because then you're incentivizing people to get married and stay together because they need each other financially, which is the way that it used to be. That's the way that's why families did stay together. Being married is not a walk in the park. So there are certain aspects to being financially dependent on one another that make marriage more stable over time. And welfare just completely destroys that. So I don't know. I'm thinking about doing more streams on UBI because I think,
it's an interesting concept.
Yeah, it's definitely an idea for the future. And I think automation is going to automate all the jobs away. So
my job is to steal people's jobs.
Yeah.
I'm making robots it's going to close a lot of workplaces.
Yeah.
When I make my cool robots that just do all the farming and shit.
Are you in robotics? Are you doing robots?
I intend to. I'm only on my third semester. So
wow.
Next semester we're going to build robots.
Yeah, sweet. I have future robot in my bio. That's one of my aspirations is to become a robot. So yeah, maybe you could design my body for me.
Maybe.
Would you do it? Would you do something cool? I want to be like 100 feet tall and have laser vision. Is that?
I don't think that's good for society. I'm sorry.
What? What? We're talking about me here. Says the woman who wants 20 husbands.
But so, yeah, it's the society today, I think, is not good for monogamy because of money and all that. So I understand why people are going poly and getting more partners.
So you bring up an interesting argument that polyamory is a way to solve economic problems.
Mm.
Is that your argument basically?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't know if it's stable. I mean, I'm willing to stake a flag in that it's not stable.
I do understand your point with. I'm just thinking if there isn't any kids involved, how would it go? Because you don't have any kids, and I don't have any kids. I'm not planning to get any. So I know a lot of people that don't have kids.
Yeah.
So it should be okay for them to go poly, because there's no kids getting hurt and messing up feelings.
Yeah, I guess that if people are getting married in poly relationships and they don't want to have kids, then I guess that completely changes the dynamic. I think people change their minds on that. So, yeah, and I think a lot of women decide not to have kids and then regret it. But and that's just really anecdotal because there are all these articles floating around about
some
people regretting
women
it.
Some women also get kids and regret it.
Yes, true. Yeah,
they steal it one's time. It's just a nightmare. Yeah. They scream all the time.
I think they grow out of that. They grow out of screaming and then grow into stealing the car and wrecking it.
Even better.
It gets even worse, yeah. So this has been an interesting dialogue. Maybe we'll leave it there unless you have any other questions or.
Not really.
We can chat more, but maybe we can stop recording.
I don't think I have any more interesting to say.
So have I swayed you over to my side? Are you fully against poly? Or I was maybe there is one more thing because I'm curious. This is one of the things that makes me curious if automation is going to deal with the incel problem too, because sooner or later we're going to perfect sex robots.
Yeah.
And I wonder if I hate calling them low status males, but unattractive males who have trouble finding a mate. And I don't think attractiveness will hurt you in finding a mate. I think you just have to work on yourself personally. Women are much more forgiving about looks than men tend to be.
Yeah.
But I wonder if a guy would rather have a sex robot than a wife in an incel situation, because men are more driven by the visual stimuli, and the sex robot, you could get like a supermodel sex robot versus an average wife. And I wonder if incels will go for that.
Well, for a start, I think, but don't you think they want to have a companionship too? Somebody to talk to and all that.
Oh, I agree. And they want to have kids. So let's just say, this is so weird because there are solutions, obviously, probably not within our lifetimes. But I mean, I was just reading a book. They were talking about how gay couples will be able to have kids and not even maybe 20 years off, maybe 10 years off. I mean, they're already working on these things where they can scrape your skin cells and turn those skin cells, basically read the genetic code and turn them into embryos. So they can take a man and make an embryo from their DNA. So two men will be able to combine their DNA and have. That doesn't seem correct. Yeah.
Well, it depends. You have to read the code first, so you're sure to get an XY or XX chromosome.
Yeah. Yes, I guess two men, because you have the Y chromosome. Yes. So I guess two men could do it. I don't know how. No, I guess two females could do it too, but the product would always be female because they don't have a Y chromosome.
Yeah.
Fascinating. So lesbian couples will only be able to have females, and the patriarchy strikes again. Oh my God. So gay couples will be able to have males or females, and they'll be able to pick. Oh my goodness. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. But anyway, so you'll be able, and this is even crazy because the rich people have the advantage once again. You'll be able to produce thousands of embryos and pick which embryo is more likely to be creative or play the piano or be 6 foot tall or whatever you want. It's like the truly designer babies. So even if you had, I guess really the bottleneck is just the wealth, the resources, because if you don't have a lot of money, then I don't see how you'd be able to afford the sex robot and the artificial womb and like
and all
everything. Yeah, exactly. But you could think of a scenario where one person could have a child and a female mate, but they're a robot. And the talking stuff, I mean, they'll figure that out. That's easy. Like we already have personal. Yeah. Well, no, the robots will be able to talk. They'll figure that out relatively soon. Yeah.
But another thing about sex robots is I heard from a lot of guys that the moment they get a girlfriend, they start to act more confident because they know they're getting laid.
Yeah.
So it actually helps them in a social situation. So if the incels get a sex robot and they know that later tonight I'm going to get sex, then maybe they actually start to talk normally to women. Because most of the time they're just so nervous and it just reeks. I hate it.
Yeah. Yes. Confidence is what women find attractive. That is 100% true. And that's why I was careful. I didn't want to say, it's all about looks, because it's not. And confidence is something you can constantly work on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. I kind of was forced into a public speaking role that I never would have taken on if circumstance hadn't kind of forced me into it, because I developed that writer's lab. And when I first started, I mean, my whole goal was just I want to be around working writers so I can network. So I started the writer's lab, and I had one guy in there who was he was in WGA. He was a successful writer. He'd sold a bunch of projects and whatnot. And he was kind of my mentor for a while and told me, you have to moderate. You have to get in front of the group and say things and do things and take questions and stuff like that. And I was thinking it would kind of just run itself. I would sit in the audience and not be a part of like kind of shaping the thing. And so I went through all the work to set it up, and it didn't dawn on me until I literally had to step on stage and be in front of a large group of people and talk, that this was something in my future. But as soon as I was forced to do it, it gets easier over time. It really does. So in live streaming, I'm bringing this up because you said you wanted to debate, and this is like your first debate. It really is about forcing yourself to do it.
And act confident. The whole fake it till you make it is true. You just have to pretend you're confident. Then you actually become it. Yeah,
there is an aspect of that. I don't like the fake it till you make it because it makes me feel like a phony. And I feel like it's okay to fail a lot. The way that I look at it is a lot of people tie their whole identity to the way people feel about them. So if they get up and they make a fool of themselves, they think, I'm a fool. That's my personality. That's my identity. And the way that I get around that is I recognize that this is just one performance. And a performance is, it's here or there. A hit or miss, right? You have a good day, you have an off day. It doesn't define you. It's not your identity. Your identity is deeper than one performance. So you're allowed to fail in front of people. That actually makes you a better person. If you can, everyone's more interested in how you handle the failure than the failure itself. So, and people are so into their own lives, like they forget so fast.
Well, Adam, I'm in school, so when I go to the exam, I have to perform my best. I can't fail there. It's a no-go.
But but one test is not going to make or break your scholastic career.
I like good grades.
Well, that's good. No, I'm not saying that you should strive for failure by any means. I'm saying
I think it's good to, when I stand in front of the teacher that are just fake being smart and all that. Just because then I look smart and they think highly of me.
Yeah, no. Well, if you can do it, do it. If you can do it, do it.
But it's important to make sure that fail faster is also good.
Yeah.
So it's a mix.
I have a sign on my wall that says "Do it wrong first," because I know I'm very much consider myself a perfectionist, and a lot of times perfectionism will stop you from moving forward.
Yeah.
And if you give yourself permission to just do it wrong, just to get moving, a lot of times you can improve yourself. Oh, that's so
true.
Yeah. So I just give myself permission to do it wrong. Just get it going. I talk about this with screenwriters too, because I say the first draft is always shitty. It's unavoidable. Like, you just have to write that first shitty draft, because all you're doing is building a lump of clay that you can sculpt with. Like, writing is totally the opposite of sculpture, because in sculpture you get to just buy the lump of clay. In writing you have to make it. So,
well, it's what I always yell at Sid, where he's sending me his book chapter by chapter, and in the beginning he just didn't want to because it was not good enough and all that bullshit. I just forced him to do it because he just have to get it out there. He needs the feedback.
He sent me the idea, and it's funny, we're recording. I'll include this. You guys can let me know in the comments below, because the idea I thought was super good. And I've been trying to think of something that Sitch and I, because we were trying to kind of shoehorn Sitch in as a character into the thing that I'm working on.
Yep.
And it feels kind of tacked on. And I want to do something that's like me and Sitch as superheroes, just because I think it would be fun and funny. And
just a fan comic.
Exactly.
Just a silly little webcomic.
But the pitch that he gave me for his book, I was like, dude, that's us already. Like, it's so perfect. I guess it's well, I don't want to give too much away, because I don't know how much he wants people to know, but
not a lot.
Yes. So, but the pitch, I thought, oh, well, that's easily adaptable. I have one thing that I could possibly adapt, and it's about time travelers, but it has a religious element. There's like a Christian, an atheist, and a Jew, and I thought, well, that could work.
That's interesting.
That could definitely work. Yes. Yeah. So I don't know. It'd be fun to do, though. It'd be totally fun to do. And our audience the podcast produced so many inside jokes and all this stuff. It would be fun. It would be fun to like.
It would be so much fun.
It would be fun to like memorial. It would be this. It would be a super meme. I mean, I'm thinking of it like a comic book, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it'd be awesome. It'd be totally awesome. It'd be like, these things don't last forever, but it would be a way of it would be the ultimate souvenir for what's going on. So.
I love the podcast and all the stupid memes that come from it.
Yeah.
I love that everybody's dude now.
Yes. Oh my God. It's so good. One day the world will meme as one.
That's beautiful.
It is. So I guess I'll go ahead and leave it there. We've been talking for a while here. Do you have any closing thoughts? Do you have a channel or anything you want to promote?
No, I'm just, on Twitter, shit posting there.
Yeah. Well, you're always in our chat too. Xofrats in the chat, so you guys know who this is. I'll go ahead and hit stop. Thanks for listening. Leave us any thoughts in the comments below, and we will see you in the next video.